So for this particular set of topics, we're going to take a very different approach, and we're going to start with the solution that the world has come up with. Now, it's not a solution, but it's a way of achieving a solution, and that is this key institution or collective action problem solution to global health issues, and they created this thing called the World Health Organization, WHO. You probably heard it in the news with coronavirus lately. Ignore that for now. Let's just talk about the World Health Organization. The goal of the World Health Organization is this: the attainment by all peoples of the highest possible level of health. By the way, awful goal. And here's why it's an awful goal. It's an awful goal because you can never achieve this. But ignore that for now. It's still, we like the aspiration of it. And that's probably the way to think about it. It's aspirational. How can we get everybody in the world to have the highest possible level of health? And so some of the big things are going to be technical and scientific collaboration across borders. And we've sort of seen this with the coronavirus, how they're sort of working between states to try and get vaccine research sharing, and then coordinating the efforts of the international community. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about this next week, but just how is this a solution to collective action problems? So let's talk about what are some of the activities that the World Health Organization does. And this isn't going to mean a lot to you today, but next week it's going to mean a whole lot to you. So just put a little pin in it for now. But the underlying words in these activities are what we call public goods. And we'll talk more about what public goods are next time. But here's what the World Health Organization is providing. Public goods tend to be underprovided if you don't do something. And the World Health Organization is designed to provide these underprovided public goods. So provide information, like where are outbreaks happening, what is the intensity of the outbreaks, how are they working on these things. So just have information out there is useful. Create standards, like it's kind of like an international FDA without the enforcement of the whole thing. But if you're going to make a particular vaccine, here are the standards that you should meet for that vaccine to be considered good. Promote international scientific cooperation. Spearhead global immunization projects, as you guys watched in that video. Immunization products like the eradication of smallpox are really important. And let's just think about this for a second. Immunization requires everyone to be immunized. If somebody is walking around with smallpox and everybody's not immunized, the smallpox can sort of jump to the next place. Now that's not just true in a particular society, it's going to be true globally as well. So let's say the entire world does immunization against smallpox. And let's say one country, let's say Pakistan decides, we're not going to do it. So smallpox continues to exist in Pakistan. Now what you have to do is if you're going to keep this immunization, you have to keep immunizing everybody all the time. If you could eradicate smallpox, you don't need the immunization because smallpox doesn't exist anymore. So getting everybody on board is really important, but it's it's global. And so there's anarchy, there's no government. And so how do you get everybody on board? If Pakistan says, no, I don't want to, how do you get Pakistan to say, okay, you're going to be on board? Today, they're also working on eradicating polio. Obviously, they're working on slowing COVID-19. There's a number of other programs that they're working on as well. The other thing that it does is it provides advocacy for poor countries. In other words, trying to get like multinational corporations to make affordable baby formula. Or one of the things we're going to talk about here in just a second, or you're going to look at it just in just a second, is to try and make sure that when a vaccine for COVID-19 comes out, that it's not just the rich countries and rich people who get it, but the whole world gets it. Just one more slide here. I want to talk about some recent shifts in WHO practices. Now, this is before COVID-19, so we'll probably see even more shifts in WHO practices. But the old model from essentially the 50s or the 40s and 50s when it was created until probably even 10 years ago, the old focus was to use Western technology to eliminate diseases. That was really that smallpox video that you watched. Western medicine is going to come up with the process of eliminating this, and then Western medicine is going to ensure that that immunization gets sort of spread around. The new focus is to eliminate the root causes of health problems. In other words, we don't need a smallpox immunization if we can't, well, we might, but if we can reduce the number of people who are susceptible to smallpox in the first place, you don't need it as much. Think about this in terms of like malaria. The old focus using Western technology means we come up with a medicine for curing malaria. That's great. Not curing malaria, but suppressing malaria. That's fantastic, and that's good, and that's a really important thing. But what would be even better is to provide, for example, mosquito nets, or to provide a reduction in sort of flooding areas so that malaria isn't spread as much. In other words, rather than sort of curing the person who's sick, what can we do to prevent people from getting sick in the first place? So this is going to focus on things like providing clean drinking water. Just clean drinking water is going to be huge. Why give somebody the cure for dysentery when you can just avoid having them get dysentery in the first place? Better sanitation, health education programs, so more knowledge about what to do and how to keep yourself safe. Here's the problem with this, and it's a really important problem from the World Health Organization, is it's really hard to raise money for prevention rather than for ongoing health crises. So let's say that you're a donor, you got $1 million and you want to give your money to something, and the World Health Organization comes to you and shows you pictures of these people who are suffering from this disease. We need medicine now or these people will die. Oh my gosh, here, take my money. Now let's imagine the World Health Organization comes in and says, look, these guys, they're not sick at all. They're super healthy right now, really fine. Now, they could get sick at some point. And so we want to spend some money to make sure they don't get sick. But right now they're doing great. Look at them. They're happy and they're playing and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot harder to raise money for them. It's not as sort of... What we found is that donors are not as willing to give to things like that. So even though the new focus makes more sense, it's hard to raise money for it. So how then do you sort of solve that problem? Some future issues for the World Health Organization are going to be, of course, which diseases will it target? Why is it targeting some diseases and not other diseases? For example, one of the big ones that is targeted is HIV/AIDS. Why has that been so prominent and malaria only recently has become prominent? Will the new focus on root causes be effective? That's a tricky one as well. And especially with COVID-19 sort of stepping in, that's going to throw all this off because that's all the world can talk about right now. So I'm just going to have you watch one quick video. You're going to just please note on there, you're going to stop at the 8:30 mark. It's just Q&A for the rest of it, so don't worry about that. And then you're going to read 2 other articles, and it's just talking about COVID-19 as a global governance issue. And then you're going to do an assignment on that, which I'll show you on the page there, and then I will see you next week where we'll figure out how to solve all this stuff. Thanks. We'll see you guys later.